America's top diplomat, set to speak live from the State Department in around 30 minutes' time. It will be the first time Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was given a live briefing since the killing of General Soleimani. Now, former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Ivo Daalder, joins us now. He's also president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. Ambassador, fantastic to have you with us. You've said that the killing of General Soleimani is likely, and I'm quoting you, a strategic disaster for the United States. Is there anything that the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, can say this morning to perhaps change your thinking here?
Well, it'll be very difficult because the immediate consequences of the killing strategically are to advantage of Iran. We are seeing pressure in Iraq for U.S. troops to be pushed out and to withdraw, which means that Iran's influence in Iraq will increase. We're seeing allies of the United States distancing itself from the United States, leaving us standing alone. And importantly, we see inside Iran hardliners really gaining the strength of popular support, and we are likely to see a more hardline Iranian regime than we might otherwise. So even without retaliation by the Iranians, we already see a significant strategic impact of the killing that was in many ways unforeseen, I think, by the administration when it took this action.
There was some confusion yesterday over whether or not the United States was going to accelerate its withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq. Would this be perhaps the most efficient form of retaliation from the Iranians here, greater influence in Iraq without even having to do anything? The U.S. creates that situation too here if they withdraw quicker than at first believed.
Yes, I think that's, in fact, one of the ways in which Iran can, quote-unquote, retaliate, to let the Iraqi political situation play out in such a way that the U.S. troops will have to leave. There's some debate about whether the U.S. has already ordered American troops to leave, with a letter that was leaked yesterday from the senior commander in the region. But if U.S. troops leave Iraq, then U.S. troops will also have to leave Syria because the Syrian troops are deeply dependent for intelligence and support on the U.S. presence in Iraq. And in both cases, it will strengthen Iran's hand in Iraq, in Syria, in the region, which is exactly what we didn't want to happen.
What about the feeling among some of the Gulf allies here? I mean, no one, it seems, wants to see any form of escalation at this situation. The Iranian foreign minister accused the United States of creating instability in the Middle East where none was necessary. What are your thoughts on that? And how are Gulf allies reacting, particularly as far as Iran here?
Well, I think they're very worried about the outcome here. The unpredictability of the Trump administration is something that has left our allies in the region, and particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE, deeply uncomfortable. Remember, in May, the Iranians attacked Saudi oil facilities, taking offline 50% of the Saudi oil production capacity, and the United States, which had pledged to protect the free flow of oil out of the Persian Gulf since Jimmy Carter was president, did nothing. And at that point, it was clear to the UAE, to the Saudis, that they could no longer rely on the United States to protect their interests, and they started a quiet diplomatic outreach to Iran. I think this has now been reinforced. They don't want to be the target of retaliation by the Iranians, and they are trying to find ways to de-escalate the situation, and one way to de-escalate is to distance oneself from the United States.
You know, one of the first questions I think that Mike Pompeo will be asked today, and if he doesn't already answer the question, is what was this terrorist threat that led them to believe that a strategic killing of General Soleimani was the only option available to them here? Do you think that question gets answered today, and is it irrelevant anyway, perhaps, in light of the following and the ensuing events?
Well, I don't think it will get answered. I hope it will be answered by the administration when it briefs the Congress tomorrow. But here is the reality. We know from the reporting that the killing of Qassim Soleimani was one of the options on the table to respond to Iranian actions. And because it was an option, It means that there were other ways in which one had to deal with the challenge that was there, which raises significant questions about whether there indeed was an imminent threat or whether that was an ex post facto rationalization for the decision to take him out.
So fantastic to have you with us, Ambassador Ivo Daalder there. Thank you so much for your perspective this morning.